But purging of the TaURen does involve some interesting biosensations at times. You may find that maybe one chakra or a couple of chakras begin to flare, where you can literally feel as if somebody turned a jet on, and it gets really hot, and you can't stand the shirt against it, and you're going like this kind of thing, and maybe just the front or the back, or maybe both, but sometimes just the front or the back, which is really weird. It's very localized. Sometimes it's just a wave that comes up your whole self, and in a second, you're just covered with sweat. You go, can't breathe, and then it stops. And they get cold. You know? So these temperature fluctuations, they have to do with DNA chemical changes that are happening because of the frequencies that are running through. When we start working with the TaURen, this is going right into the core of the anatomy. This is what has held the mutation fully in to the bodies and the atoms, because every atom and every tiny little quark actually has its own encryption pattern, and it has been twisted. When you have an upside-down TaURen, you have a reversed set of currents running through all of it. We're beginning the process now of going right to the core, because there's no time to build up to that anymore. This is beyond Cathara 12 stuff. This is stuff we weren't going to have to do. If we did starburst alone, we would have made it through the plus 90 shift, which was more like another 90-degree shift compared to what we were already doing at Hetaro and Hethalon, right? And we would have ended up in the Adonai time track, and we would have had several million years of evolution to get to the point where we'd have to worry about doing a tachyon cycle. But Amente wouldn't have got encrypted in that case. Amente would have fallen, Shona. This way, the fall is free, and so is the rise. And this way, we need to get our TaURens going and reclaim our towers. TaURen. Now, when we get into some of the other stuff, you'll find out about ers and ors and rus, which are reversed ors, right? All these things have meaning, right? When you look at Partakai anatomy. You know, we even have, if some of you might remember, we talked about Partakai 1, the UN, the UN. And then we had Partakai 2, which was the A. And then we had the A, actually, which has to do with the flame at the center of Partakai 2 that's created. Yeah, creation mechanics, first creation mechanics. Well, we get ers and ors in the same type of ways. So all of these words that have to do with the things we teach, they are all core encryption. One of the biggest things we're going to address in Tenerife is going to be, what is encryption exactly? We've been getting a lot of transmissions on encryption. And encryption, in a nutshell, you could really easily say it's, well, the core vibrational pattern something has. It's much more than that. It is a vibrational pattern, yes. It does have a vibrational signature. It is a vibrational signature of energy. And it is the part that can never, ever lie. Everybody has an encryption that is different from everyone else's. And any set of beings that experience the same reality field at any given space-time moment share a similar encryption with each other, or they wouldn't be seeing that reality field. It is the encryption that we do not have of the Amente pattern yet in the inner and middle hub worlds. That encryption, that core vibrational signature, needs to be reset. Now, what if an encryption isn't just a vibration? You think a vibration of what? You know, is it like, if you think of strings vibrating, well, that's a string vibrating. You know, vibration requires a medium. Right? We're talking like hydrogel stuff. There's these substances. There's this thing called the Jalesic states of before we get to pre-matter on the outside. There are Jalesic states. They start within the first Partakai. It was bad enough going to the first Partakai and trying to analyze what the first Partakai did to get itself to create manifestation outside of itself. The encryption information is taking us into the first Partakai from the first thought form of Source, and how that thought form gelled and became a Jalesic state that is different. There's thermojalesic, hydrojalesic, all sorts of Jalesics. So there's a whole bunch of different things that we're going to learn about encryption. And encryption is what we need to put back into the hubs so we are able to complete a tachyon cycle. Now, normally, if we try to do a tachyon cycle and go into the hubs, we'd be vaporized because our encryption is not in there. It is the fact that the ARC gate, Once the indigos can anchor the hub pulse because of the adenate indigos that are among us, they can anchor it. They can bring it up through the arcs. Then the rest of the indigo shield can access it. Our encryptions will be carried in with that first pulse. So before the hub circulation opens, the encryption is literally being set on the first arc that circulates in. And that's why we can prepare for a tachyon cycle. What it eventually means, tachyon fields are what a lot of the scientists are trying to figure out how to do because they're invisibility fields. Well, if you're, at least here, you figure it's going superluminal, faster than the speed of light, which means you can't see it. Right? Well, at least. And you will probably be the first to be contacted. All right? Not because you're favored, but because you're known. And you will have in your own shield data stores that the others that haven't been at all encrypted in will need, to understand. So they will probably, they'll contact through dream state first. Or if you're quite open, you may, just get it telepathically or feel a presence with you. But that doesn't mean you immediately say, "Oh, hi, you must be a Hathor. I'm just going to hang out with you." For months I had the Hathor High Council, even though I knew who they were, and I just melted into a blob of love in my heart. I could just, I'm going home. Oh, they're back. I want to go home. I could feel them, their encryption. I knew who they were, but it is my protocol to put them in file 13, and there are certain stages of angles that I need to, on my multidimensional stack, check them out on, whoever they are, in order to make sure they are what they say they are. So you need to do this too. And if they're really guardian beings, they'll just smile and say, "Hey, good one, you're doing protocol, that's good," Because they don't want you to just hand yourself over to something that says, "Hi, I'm your guardian angel." You know what I mean? Let me lead you down a black hole. You'll love it there, really. So there will be contact accelerating from this point. But again, they're not going to land on the White House lawn. Not yet, anyway. If any of that happens, know that 3-day evac engage thing has been triggered, and something's going to crash, and they're not going to be able to keep the gates open. And if that happens, they'll do a pull, the bootstrap bit. Anybody can go, they'll bring them in. And then, of course, if they want to go fall after that, they can always send them back. Because with the fall, if you go into the Edons and say, "Well, I don't really like it here. I don't want to be eternal after all. I really want to go back and fall down there. All my friends are there." You say, "Okay, you can go back that way. It's just you can't come back the other way." So, there's a little bit of, free will is a great thing if you're coherent. But if you're not coherent, a little knowledge is a very dangerous thing, and that's what's happening here. So so far, we don't have to worry about 3-day evac bits. There may come a time, though, when, it's already getting strange. When you look at the news, it's like, what's falling apart now? We got floods out in California now, fires somewhere. This is on the news just recently. It's like Australia, fires. It's like there's always this stuff going on, but there's just an awful lot of it all over the place anymore. And this is without watching the politics and the three-way war issue building. You'll basically have your Drax and Anunnaki URI people fighting against the Wisa Drax and their some Drac people, but mainly Wisa Drac. You're going to see religious wars, and that's what they're going to start as. They're already, primed for it, but it's not going to get better. Hopefully, some semblance of peace can be kept, because none of us want to get dragged into wars that we're not going to win anyway. They basically said there will be a winner to the three-way war whenever that finalizes, and it will be, as I believe was said in the Bible. And it appears that China will get involved at some point. And they will, because of, let's say, the remnants of other places that decided to help them out at the time. Not yet. This is a future thing. Because of which of the ones that were stuck here from the other systems decided to help them out. They had superior technologies, and they won. That will hopefully be after, where we don't have to be here to witness that kind of thing, because they don't have to let that happen. The sovereign fall people do not have to let that conflict go that far, but they have to stop competing for grids and start cooperating and working together if they want to avert that probability in their matrix. But that's going to be a quarantined probability that they can play with, and it's very strong it's a very strong imprint that is set. So the Hathars will be the ones in the Cal Fall Center that will help to create a different option. And that's where our teachings fit in. That's why it's still worth writing books and not just talking about it. Because these books, they'll edit the heck out of them. They'll change the names. They'll put their own characters in just like they always did. But they have to keep a certain element of truth, or the frequency changes and it'll break the access encryption link to the hub. See, some of the fallen races just don't get it yet. You can lie through your teeth. You can be the greatest silver-tongued, what there is. You can con your mother if you think you're so great at it. But one thing you cannot do is con your encryption. You will carry what you are made of in the form of the Jalesic matter states that are at the core of your quarks. That doesn't lie. And that is the truth by which your consequence will be drawn to you in the universe. No matter how much you whine, no matter how much you don't think it's fair. And every idea you hold has an encryption. And it either supports where you think you want to go or doesn't. So encryption becomes a fascinating thing, a tool. If we can realize that every thought we think, every word we mutter to ourselves, even in our head, everything, every item of clothes you wear on your body has an encryption. And that doesn't always mean organic's better, by the way. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. Organically what? Is it buckyballed to death? Is it genetically modified to make sure it's more pure? Pure what is the question, So it's not always what it appears on the surface. But we're going to be taught to become local masters of encryption, first starting with our own selves. Because through that encryption, we'll be able to not only first anchor what we need to begin our TaURen tachyon cycle, but we will be able to begin to use the tachyon cycle. Because see, once you get tachyon cycle moving, your creation power starts to come back. So you better have a handle on your head, on your brain. You better have a bit of your own mind control happening, or you're going to see all sorts of purging of the TaURen flying out through your hologram. Because there are encryptions that don't belong there. That when your TaURen begins to heal, it will kick them out and turn them back around. And you can intercept them and heal them. You can we'll be creating healing screens to absorb some of this stuff. So when it's coming off our crystal body, as our TaURen kicks it up and says, that's a Shona program, that doesn't belong here, right? Just manifest it and go through 20 years of karma in 3 days. No. It could be that bad if it wasn't being done the right way. But they're going to teach us how to use the mind to create specific encryptions that will allow us to burn off some of that stuff so we don't have to trip over it and walk over it. Because, I would hate to say, I've seen accelerated karma cycles, which means basically accelerated clearing cycles. And they can be really nasty. You sit in the middle of your life and go, what else can fall apart? What did I ever do that was so bad? It must have been really, really bad. I must have been terrible somewhere for me to have done this. And that necessarily isn't true. It doesn't mean you were a bad person or you did anything bad, but it does mean you got a jumbled up encryption that's trying to clear itself. So we'll be taught ways to do this. There's a lot to learn. I'm going to